Audio check one for the meeting stream.
Testing 1, 2, 3. YouTube 1, 2, 3. Can the interpreters please do a sound check on English?
This is a test on the English channel for the interpreter. Can someone hear me? Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Hello, hello.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Melinda.
Interpreters, could you please check on the French?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's on.
Good morning, welcome. We'll get started in 1 minute. On va commencer dans 1 minute. Merci. Good morning, welcome. Bienvenue à tous et à tous. On va commencer la réunion. We'll get
Hello, we'll
started.
get started now.
Before we get to the formal agenda, I do wish to acknowledge, il est important de souligner que la ville d'Ottawa se
I'd like to
trouve
point out that the city of Ottawa is located on the unceded traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose presence has continues to enrich our culture.
We have regrets from Councillor Gower. Je vais demander à Eric pour confirmer les membres qui sont présents.
Could you do the roll call, please, Eric?
Just a moment, Chair. I see Councillor Tierney's joining. Councillor Tierney,
Present.
Councillor Gower, Councillor Leeper,
Good morning.
Councillor Kavanaugh,
Present.
Vice Chair Curry,
Here.
Chair DeRush.
Here.
You have quorum, Chair.
Thank you, Eric. Before we get started, as you know, members of council and the public is aware that one of our key officials who has been with the city for several years, working extremely hard to realize our light rail program is moving on to other opportunities. Michael recently announced that he's moving on to a new chapter in his incredible career, and that this will be his last light rail subcommittee meeting today. During his time as Director of Rail Construction, Michael has seen the city through many major milestones. In 2014, he began as the operations manager for the former Trillium Line, and he guided the system through service improvements. He then brought his formidable experience on projects in Australia, South Korea, Queens, New York, and Burnaby, BC, right up there with those top world cities to bear as he helped lead the procurement process for Stage 2. Since then, he has negotiated with multiple contractors, provided countless presentations to both communities and council, and answered some tough questions from my colleagues and I, and pushed forward with the construction of Stage 2 project during some extremely trying years of the pandemic, and is now poised to open the first of the extended lines. Même si nous sommes tristes de le voir partir,
Even if we're very, very sad to see him leave, this is a natural progression in Michael's career.
Through some of the toughest times, Michael has displayed his trademark calm and collected character. Pour les nombreuses personnes qui ont travaillé avec Michael,
For many people who have worked with Michael over the years, he's been a real mentor to them, a leader and a friend as well. He has embodied the values that we cherish, devotion, integrity, and the pursuit of excellence.
Vision, positive energy, leadership, and steadfast commitment to the city's success have left an indelible mark and will for many generations. Michael de Sapal Michael, de la part de mes collègues du
On behalf
Conseil,
of my council colleagues, on behalf of your team, on behalf of all city staff, thank you for your generous contribution and for your positive legacy that you leave the city.
Very much missed, Michael, but you'll always be part of the story of our city. Nous vous disons affectueusement adieu.
So
et vous souhaitons
affectionately
bonne chance dans la
goodbye,
prochaine étape
and we wish you
de carrière.
all the best
I
in the
will
next
say,
stage of your career.
We've heard many times that, as our country moves more towards commuter rail systems in many other jurisdictions, it is challenging and to recruit people. We're building up that expertise, and I know you're moving on to other chapters, and you're part of not just our city's history of bringing more rail to commuters, but also I think our country's evolution. We've moved from really industrial rail to much more commuter rail system. Your expertise, no doubt, is well sought after. So thank you very much for your professionalism. I've worked many years in the federal public service, and I can't imagine as a public service, the constant pressures that you face and the public glare that you face, that if you worked in the federal government, you would not have that kind of experience. So it takes a special someone to work at the municipal level, to have that kind of stamina, to respond to some 24 bosses that are calling you, I think, on a regular basis to address issues big and small. And you've always brought a great deal of professionalism. And I wish you sincerely the best on my behalf and on behalf of the members of the Light Rail Subcommittee. So with that, we look forward to hearing from you later on today. I'm sure you'll have, a continuing theme of questions, and I know you'll do your best as always to keep us up to date. Je sais pas, René, si vous aviez quelque chose à ajouter.
Renee, anything to add?
Vous voulez faire maintenant ou après?
Would you like to do it now or later? I'll do it later. I'll do it later.
With that, I know we have some delegations here. I will welcome you here, but we're going to go with a couple pieces of business first, and then we're going to hear the presentation, and we'll go to the delegations. So before we start, I'll just ask if there's any declarations of interest on behalf of members of the committee. Not hearing any. Confirmation of minutes, 3.1 LRSC minutes 9, February 29th, 2024. Carried. 3.2 TTC LRSC minutes 2, May 31st, 2024. Carried. 3.2. 3.3 TTRLRS confidential minutes 2, May 31st, 2024. Those minutes carried. First item, and the only item on the agenda today, is the Stage 2 Light Rail Transit Project. Not aware of any motions that are coming forward. If you do, please get them to Eric. We've got a number of our staff here, as we always do, who will take us through the presentation. With that, je vais passer la parole à René.
Now I'd like to give the floor to Renee.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much,
Good
Mr.
morning,
Chair.
everyone. I'm pleased to be here at today's Light Rail Subcommittee meeting. Before we delve into our agenda, I would like to echo Chair DeRoche's words about Michael Morgan. Although I've only had the opportunity to work with Michael over the past few years, his impact has been profound. Michael as a cornerstone of our team for nearly a decade, guiding us through complex projects, including the completion of the Stage 1. LRT, the procurement for Stage 2, and the challenges posed by COVID-19 and the public inquiry. Under Michael's leadership, we've been able to integrate valuable lessons learned from Stage 1 into Stage 2, refine our systems, and build a strong team capable of advancing this critical project. While we will deeply miss Michael's guidance, I have every confidence in the team and in Richard and the rest of all DLT members to see this project through completion. Thank you, Michael, for your unwavering dedication to ces transports. Michael, je veux m'adresser personnellement cette
Now I'd like
fois-ci
to
à toi.
speak to you personally now. It's not a secret for anybody that I have a lot of affection for you. I've loved working with you. It was an honor for me. I'm very emotional today because through you, I was able to develop love for construction and for the LRT. I now know that I'm able to manage this project, and that's thanks to you. And thank you very much. And I'm sure our paths will cross again in the future. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Today, I'm here with members of the Rail Construction Program team to provide an update on the 3 Autran extension projects. In July, we held a technical briefing to provide details on the South Extension's trial running program, covering key elements such as trial running prerequisites, scorecards, and the pathway to passenger service. Since then, we've been growing the system reliability through daily operation of trains on line 2 and 4. We have been addressing system infrastructure issues, improving the functionality and performance reporting of required data management systems, and improving the reliability of the vehicles. There is still work to be done, and we are working closely with TNext, as well as on our side, to ensure we have the systems, staff, and the resources in place, not only to support trial running, but revenue service. Today, Richard will give us an update on the current status of our progress toward trial running. It's important to recognize that we are continually learning and improving the system as we move forward. In recent months, we've reached several significant milestones and made substantial progress, but there is still critical work on the way before we are confident the system is ready to proceed to trial running. We will continue to bring regular updates on our progress in testing, reliability, and staff training to this committee and to council. We have previously provided this committee with information on our communications plan to ensure customers are ready to use the new lines. As we progress toward trial running and opening the system, we will provide an update on the communications you can expect, as well as our plans to celebrate the opening with the entire community. Now, I would like to hand over the presentation to first Michael Bartlett and then Jaslyn Daigle, who will provide an update on construction for the Autran East, West, and South extensions. Following them, Eric Dubé will share updates on the Head-End, the central hub where data is collected and processed for train controllers. This component is crucial and must be fully operational before we begin trial running. Richard Holder will then present on the progress, status, and remaining activities to be ready for trial running. Finally, Troy Tarter will provide information on final readiness activities that will occur after trial running in order for OC Transpo to be ready to open lines 2 and 4 to the public. Merci beaucoup. Over to you, Michael Bartlett.
Merci. Thank you, Renee. Thank you. Councillors, I'm happy here today to present to you both the East and West update for the Confederation line. Recognizing that previous presentations, a lot of the photos and images provided were aerial drone shots and whatnot. We want to take this time to actually show you guys, as well as the public, what we actually are going to see once we start opening up this line and user interface. So we're going to have actually photos in the platform areas, the common areas, the fare gate areas, kind of show you guys exactly what's going on, as well as the construction and the status of where we stand. So without further ado, I'd like to jump into the East, and we'll start with that. Next slide, please. So Montreal Station, as you can see, the station platform, it's basically completed. We have our orange protection gates because we have the train service testing that is currently all the way out to the east at Trim Station, very successful. As part of that, what you're going to see in the next slide, please, sorry. A lot of the underground work is what we're working on right now. So you'll see some lane closures, restrictions as part of that. Left photo is actually the fare entrance gate and the lantern on the far left that you can see there. We finished the cycle track and sidewalk works. Now we're currently working on the east side of the station to do the same. You can see the coil grills are in place, as well as we got the signage and wayfinding that started on the east entrance. Next slide, please. Jeanne d'Arc Station itself. So we're currently working on the interior station finishes on it. We're working on the final connectivity portions to the station itself. What you can see here on this side is on the right-hand side of the photo, a lot of the hard surface works or sidewalk entrance into the plaza, as well as the asphalt works have been completed. And we'll see more of that on the next slide. As you can see here, our plaza entranceways, as you can see, are completed into the actual station entrances. The hard surface works for the pedestrian access into it is completed. And we're currently working on the waterproofing on the bridge structure work, as well as the asphalt to come. Next slide, please. Convent Station, we're currently working on the sidewalks, as well as there'll be passenger pickup and drop-off areas on the quadrants of that station. So we're currently working on that. And we're also working on the elevator installation and interior finishes on this station. So next slide, please. So in this slide here, we drop into the actual station platform. What you can see is, our staircases are completed with handrails. The lighting is done on the platform. Our platform edging is in place. Wayfinding and signage is there. And you see some of the protection on the actual elevators, protecting the stainless steel on that. Essentially a finished product at the station right now, from what you would see. Next slide, please. So Place d'Orléans Station, we have the existing PED bridge structure, which you can see is the red roof structure, which goes from the bus rapid transit park and ride to the Orleans Mall Center. We have the new PED bridge that's been put in place, which connects our BRT loop facility to the LRT platform as part of it. Currently, we're working on the bus loop construction and park and ride rehabilitation. Next slide. What you can see here on the left photo is actually the last Fairgate system to go in as part of the east. So pretty exciting for the group that once that's in place, more testing and commissioning can come as part of it. A lot of the interior finishes are essentially complete, but just minor touch-ups as part of them. The photo on the right-hand side is that new pedestrian bridge connection structure that actually operates between the bus rapid transit system and the LRT platform. Through the glazing on the left-hand side, you can see the red roof of that existing PED structure. So they do run parallel to one another. And as part of this bridge structure, you can see, maybe hard to see a little bit, but a lot of those drilled holes on the right-hand side are basically going to be the tactile warning strips that are going to be put in place for the accessibility and wayfinding for those users. Next slide, please. So the last station on the east is part of the system. So currently we're working on the escalators and elevator installation in the station and the BRT connection. The bus operator building commissioning, which is just far on the top of the actual photo. We'll get a close up in a second, as well as we're working on the park and ride construction at this location. Next slide, please. So on the left-hand side, what we have here is this is a building that will ultimately connect our bus loop connection to the LRT. So if you're using the BRT facility and you wanted to transfer into the LRT, on the right-hand side of the left photo, there's a staircase and escalator system. You would ride that up, and then into the photo itself would be your connection into the actual LRT. So that would be the bridge that carries you over the OR 174 eastbound into the LRT platform. The photo on the right is where essentially you would come to as part of that. We have our elevator systems that's shown there as part of it. Just behind that area where the glazing is, left of the elevator system, you would carry through there and down onto the platform edge. As you can see here, a lot of the interior finishes are done, but there's minor cleanup to be done as part of it, but essentially it's looking like a finished product here. Next photo. So this is the bus loop at Trim Road itself. As you can see, basically completed at this time. Some minor finishing work to be done. A couple of weeks ago, we actually completed the test run for the OC Transpo to make sure that it will operate as intended. And in turn, it was a successful test procedure. And in turn, we're looking to actually flip the buses into this bus loop in the middle of September here. So as part of other works that we will see in the east activity, so we'll have some connectivity enhancements that will continue at Jeanne d'Arc Boulevard. Train testing will ramp up here as we move into winter of 2024. Station completion, which is a big milestone that we're looking forward to in winter 2024. This is where these finishes will come into play. The testing and commissioning will actually continue to move along, and occupancy for these stations will start to materialize. As well as at the end of 2024, we're going to have some paving operations, which are going to happen on the 174, essentially from Champlain to Trim. Just some highlights I would like to give at this time related to the traffic and mobility impacts here. So on Highway 174, there'll be ongoing lane and ramp closures to facilitate a lot of these paving works in 2024 as well in 2025. Montreal Road, as shown in some of the photo updates at the start of the presentation, there are impacts underneath right now, lane closures. This is to facilitate some of the station entrance works as well as utility works. Jeanne d'Arc Boulevard, we still have various traffic configurations, so we're flipping traffic to facilitate a lot of the works for the entrance as well as the bridge rehab that needs to be done. Because of the expansion of the bridge structure, we will essentially have to put new bearings underneath it. So there's some bridge work to be done as part of this. So there'll be some impacts in this upcoming season. As well as Orleans Boulevard and Champlain Street, there'll be lane closures and restrictions on this area. This is essentially to help facilitate the construction for our Place Orleans station. And that's our update for the east segment. I'll move along into the west segment now. So the first station is the stage 1, stage 2 interface as part of Tunney's pasture. So what we have here is construction is currently going on the rail system. So we're constructing the concrete rail plinths that need to go in place on top of the storm sewer system, as well as we're working on the ultimate bus rapid transit system design layout. So what you see there where the buses are is the interim phase. We're currently working on an ultimate arrangement for that when LRT stage 2 is in operation. We're currently working with Public Services and Procurement Canada on that operation, and we're hoping to have the design finished by the end of this season. Next photo. Okay, perfect. Sorry. Previous slide. All right. So what you see here is the rail interface between stage 2 and stage 1. So a big milestone that we actually had completed recently on this was during the maintenance shutdown that occurred for the 2 weeks. So there were many coordination meetings and efforts that were underway by staff and the maintainer on this to actually facilitate some tie-in works. What that ultimately does for us, it actually will minimize the impacts to stage 1 revenue service by doing so. So a huge milestone for the team and well done, I would say, for them. The works that were done as part of this works, just to clarify some of the stuff. So we had OCS tie-in works that were done, and we had to provide new contact wires from the stage 1 into the stage 2 interface. Next slide. So Westport Station, a lot of the works are focused within the trench itself related to concrete works on the platform and a lot of the walls supporting the structure itself. Next photo, we'll get a better look at this. So you can see a lot of the formwork there. So the platforms are poured at this time. A lot of formwork and false work in place here to facilitate those concrete works. One thing I'll note that when the rail system actually gets put down in place here, maybe a bit hard to see, but in the middle between these platforms, there's actually a concrete structure. That's a major storm sewer collector system that we do have that the rail system will run on. That system actually takes water from the Westport area, et cetera. It travels all the way down through Tunney's pasture and then ultimately out to the Ottawa River. So we're currently working on rehabilitation of that structure, and then concrete plinths will go on top of that, and then the rail structure. You'll start to see that materialize in the fall and in 2025. Next slide, please. Perfect. So Kitchissippi Station. One thing I like to highlight here is at the very top of the screen, the top edge, we had the temporary pedestrian crossing in place for the public. We since removed that, and now the public users are going to be traveling through the mezzanine of the station itself. What that does for us is it allows continuation of track work. We have some special track work pieces to go in that location, and that will help allow us to advance and facilitate that work. Next slide, please. So this is the west edge of the station for Kitchissippi, and this is the new pedestrian access in and out for that location. Next slide, please. Sherbourne Station is the first station on the Parkway Tunnel. So the concrete works as part of this station is essentially completed, and we're currently working on the structural steel as part of the station. So the next photo, we dive into the actual head house itself. You'll see a lot of the steel work is in place, the roofing, some mechanical components as part of it. The next works to facilitate as part of this is we'll start the glazing component and start enclosing these actual structures itself. The next station we have moving west is New Orchard Station. So it's similar in nature, but a little bit more advanced than Sherbourne Station. Here our structural steel actually is completed. We have glazing works on the station itself, which is currently underway. Progress is actually looking well. We'll see on the next photo here, platform level. So platform level here, what you can see is a lot of the interior shell of the station platform. It is a center platform station. So we have drywall, some mechanical, electrical to go underway here coming up next. Following that, we'll start pulling concrete plinths and rail through the actual station itself. Next slide, please. So I just want to give you an update on the cut and cover progress as a whole. As you know, we completed the tunnel construction components itself. We've started the backfilling components to it. There are a lot of pieces of work shown in this area that maybe is not apparent to the public and to everybody else, but you know, we have the Parkway Tunnel here. We have the East Portal entrance to the Parkway Tunnel. And the far off, we have Kitchissippi Station itself. We have the temporary bus tour currently in place. We have Kitchissippi McCann, which we're doing phasing and staging to move that to facilitate the construction of the actual tunnel itself, as well as where a lot of the vehicles and C-cans are currently off to the right is Rochester Field, but ultimately we'll get rehabilitated, rejuvenated into a park area. So there's a lot of work still to come here, but it's a lot of coordination efforts as part of it. On to the next slide. So in the tunnel itself, what are we doing here? We're doing a lot of the construction of the actual concrete plinths and the rail as itself. So when we talk about concrete plinths, this is what sits on the direct fixation or the invert slab of structures. And from that, we essentially place our rail structure on top of that. For construction of this, just for your information, what construction of these plinths would include, we would start by drilling into the invert slab of the tunnel. From there, we would start rebar installation. What you can see on the left there is the formwork. So that would be the next part of that process. In turn, we'd place the concrete in place, let that cure. We'd pull apart those forms. Once that's completed, we'd put our rail inserts and start our rail installation on top of that. And pursuant to that, then we would work on finding refinement and tuning of the actual rail alignment itself. Next photo, please. So looking at some of the portals and entranceways, part of our cut and cover, this area is more a Connaught area in Queensview, just to give you a look and feel how on the left-hand side, it's similarly the same. The plinths on the north side, which is the right-hand side of that photo, are incomplete. We're currently forming the left-hand side, as well as the trench works on the photo on the right is the approach to Pinecrest Station. That bridge structure you see in the far off side is Queensview itself and Pinecrest. Next photo, please. Just another photo showing you how the actual construction and evolution of this occurs. So you can see these concrete plinths are independent formwork structures that are in place. So there's gaps between them, which allows drainage to occur within them. It takes a lot of time to get these done. We're drilling holes in the invert slabs. As you can see, rebars in place on the right-hand side. Then once that's concrete's cured, rail inserts, et cetera. So it's a lengthy process, but it's actually going well throughout the Parkway Tunnel and all our direct fixation locations currently. So heading west out of our Parkway Tunnel towards the south at Carling, we have Lincoln Field Station. So what you can see here currently on the right-hand side where the buses are, that used to be the existing BRT for Lincoln Fields. That's currently our temporary layup location. On the left-hand side of the LRT, you see a lot of gravel and barrels at this time. We're doing underground works for the ultimate bus rapid transit system location. So this is where the buses will ultimately be once we're up and running as part of stage 2. The other thing I would like to mention at the station at this time for the LRT is we're currently working on Fairgate installation. It's starting to progress in the west. As indicated, we have one last to do in the east, and then we'll concentrate on Fairgates into the west. photo you can see here shows a couple of components of the rail infrastructure we put in place. So the bridge structure you see right in front of you is our flyover, Connaught flyover. This structure carries the rail infrastructure over top of Pinecrest Creek. We've put a new realigned multi-use pathway underneath it as well as it allows the southbound LRT train to actually head to Algonquin Station itself. Off in the far distance, you can see our bridge, Woodruff Ped Bridge, Bridge 44 as we call it as well. The rail works, as you can see here, is progressing well. We're starting to put flooding of ballast, and rail skeleton track will commence shortly. Continuing south, we head to Irish Station. So Irish Station essentially is a finished product for the most part. We're currently working on grading surrounding the actual station itself. Next photo, we'll get an actual look from what it looks like within the guideway itself. So you can see here the product, it looks like a finished station. A couple things to note, we have an interior protection barrier that needs to go in place, which you can see the foundations currently down the center between the two tracks. And the platform edge. The platform edge isn't installed at this current time. What we'll do is we'll wait to final alignment of the rail system itself and then set that offset distance appropriately and pour that in place. Heading south to the last station for Algonquin. It's one of these stations that we can't really see. I don't think we've actually shown any photos within the interior shell itself of actual real progress to date. So as part of this, the white building you see there is the entranceway into the LRT system. We also have a pedestrian structure connection into Algonquin Station. The next photo you'll see is actually down inside the LRT station within Algonquin itself. So progress is underway. The photo on the left is the platform area itself. What you'll see there is we have the lighting, the steel in place, we have acoustic panels in place, and we're getting ready for tiles on the left-hand side. The right-hand side, you can see in the common area, we have tiling already in place, wall tiles, etc. Minor interior finishes that are currently ongoing. The next slide is our pedestrian bridge structure connection between that facility, the Fairgates zone building, and Algonquin itself. Next steps as part of this pedestrian structure, we're going to put the curbs in on the right and left-hand side edging there. And then from there, we will start to enclose that structure with glazing. Next slide. So now we're traveling west. As part of the first station that you'll see is Queensview Station. So this is in the trench on the north side of the 417. Currently working on servicing to the station, which includes dry and wet utilities, as well as getting permanent power. So some photos, a little bit closer view and an update. So what we have here on the left-hand side is our elevators 1 and 2, which is on the south side of the 417. The middle picture is our interior look of the bridge structure over the 417 itself. So the glazing is completed. We're currently working on some electrical, mechanical, and the ceiling of this structure, as you can see, and then interior finish works will continue as part of it. On the right-hand side is our ramp access into the actual station and the pedestrian overpass over the 417. Continuing west, we move into Pinecrest Station. So currently in the station, we're working on testing and commissioning, as well as we're looking at constructing the platform edge soon, as this location is already been pulled through with construction of the concrete plinths and rail. And we'll see that in a second in the next photo. So in this photo, you can see here, we've started to pull rail all the way through. This photo is west of the station itself, so towards Bayshore Station. Through the station itself is direct fixation, and then we have a transition to ballast. So we pulled that through as part of it, and we're working on the skeleton track as part of the ballast towards Bayshore at this time. The next photo is of Bayshore Station itself. So we had to get the emergency egress tunnel underneath completed before we could backfill it. That's been completed. So now we're moving on to some of the rail infrastructure. So the subgrade, the ballast infill is part of it. And we're also working on the existing elevator systems as part of the BRT that's been converted to LRT. And that's currently ongoing. The next photos you're going to see is more of what we'll see as part of the station itself. So the left two photos is actually of the LRT conversion from the existing BRT. So what you can see on the platform edge on the top left is we have our structural steel in place as part of it, as well as the bottom. You can also see that we've also pulled the initial track and rail through that actual alignment. On the right-hand side, the photos, what you see there is currently the bus rapid transit arrangement of the loop, currently in a temporary state. Once we get the LRT system in a more completed situation, then ultimately we will flip to focusing on the bus rapid transit ultimate setup as part of that loop. Heading further west, our flyover structure at Holly Acres is a direct fixation structure. We just want to show some progress on this as well as we're pulling the skeleton track through that, as you can see in the photo there. The next photo will give us a little better view of the progress on that. So the concrete plinths are currently put in place. The rail inserts are there and fasteners. The rail has been put in place and we're slowly working on finishing up the alignment and adjustments of the rail system on that. Continuing to our last station on the west is Moody Station. So we just finished completing the topper slab for the platform at this time. We're preparing for work ongoing in the service connection and ultimately the bus loop. So there will be a bus loop on the left-hand side of the photo, as you can see here, where the construction trailers and vehicles currently are. So coming up here in the fall, in the spring of 2025, we'll be looking to start a lot of the underworks as part of that. And then it'll start looking like a bus rapid transit loop facility. Inside Moody Station at the upper level, as you can see here, the ceiling panels are in as part of this. The glazing is enclosed as part of the building itself, working on interior finishes, and Fairgate's coming in the fall of 2024. So the last component to the rail expansion in the west, the LMSF itself. So we're happy to say that next week we're actually going to have our first delivery of an LRV to the station itself. So that'll be delivered next week. We'll take some time to assemble it accordingly. What this does for us as a whole is it starts the actual testing and commissioning in the west. If we didn't do so, ultimately we'd have to wait for the rail system to be connected all the way from Tunney's to the LMSF station, slowly pushing trains out from east to west. This way, we're going to facilitate the actual testing from west to east. And as we move forward, the remainder of 2024, we will look to have other LRVs delivered to advance that testing further. The photo on the left here is actually the storage shed where the LRVs will be placed at night. So they won't all be housed in at the Belfast MSF itself. And the right photo, what you can see there, this is the administration building. So this is where the drivers of the LRVs will basically start their day and end their day at these locations. Other activities just to mention and highlight here. So the completion of Pinecrest Stormwater Pond is essentially in operation as we speak. We're looking to have an opening ceremony in coming weeks related to that officially. As mentioned, we have the first LRV going to the LMSF next week. The commissioning of LMSF will start soon in the fall. The revitalization of Richmond Road project is ongoing. We hope to have a better update related to that at the next subcommittee related to photos and what you can expect, as well as in 2025, the installation of the OCS system on the main line as the skeleton track gets completed. So the west traffic and mobility impacts. Overall, to summarize, basically at the interchange between Pinecrest and Richmond, our construction works will continue through the spring to fall of 2024. There will be continued to be impacts. This is to facilitate the complicated construction works in the area as part of Pinecrest Station. And we hope that a majority of it will be wrapped up by the fall of 2024. Some other things to highlight on the next slide, please. Other things to highlight on some of the local road network as part of the city. So Corkstown Road, we have some construction works that are required here, in particular at the intersection of Moody and Corkstown that's underway here. Kitchissippi McCann Parkway, There will be multiple long-term closures to finish the road. So there's a bunch of staging configurations need to be done as indicated. We need to do so in order to work with the construction of the tunnel itself. Iris Street itself, we're going to have some minor lane closures along that location for utility relocations. And Richmond Road is ongoing. We're going to have multiple closures for Richmond Road complete streets and the construction of our Byron Linear Park. The last slide I just want to present here is an update on our Alstom Citadis production of the trains. So currently we have 5 awaiting production. There are 11 currently in production. We have 4 that are in dynamic testing, 4 in final inspection, and we now have 14 that have been accepted as part of the program. So without further ado, I'll hand this over to my colleague Jocelyn Degg, who's the manager of rail construction.
Good morning. So next up, we will go through the construction update for the Trillium line. In general, works are progressing very well. We're really looking at sort of completion activities at this point. Our final works include, for the most part, completion of testing and commissioning, landscaping works, closing out deficiencies. We've achieved a very important milestone since our last meeting together, which is obtaining all 13 occupancy permits for the stations as well as the MSF buildings. Donc, en général, les travaux se progressent super bien sur la ligne de Trillium.
Everything is working well on the Trillium line. The final work include, namely, the commissioning and trials, as well as some closures. One point that's important since the last meeting is that we obtain all the occupation permits for the stations and the maintenance building, MSF. So we can proceed to the next slide.
Doing just a quick overview of each of the stations. So starting at Bayview, recent works here include some work on the fire alarm system. As you can see from this overview, there's been a lot of works to get us to the point we're at today that I think are worth highlighting. From the bottom of the photo working up, we have our double tracks installed. We have our special track work for the switches there. We have our station that services the new Trillium line, as well as that pedestrian walkway that will allow us that connectivity into a future development at that location. On the north side of Albert Street, we see the stage 1 or line 1 Bayview station. And then on Albert Street itself as well, you can see some of the protective fencing that's gone in as an enhancement to that overpass. So we can keep going to our next slide for Corso Italia. Corso Italia, some of the major works taking place now are the pedestrian crossing, the signalized crossing that will come in for the MUP crossing of Gladstone Road. Otherwise, the station itself is really substantially complete. Landscaping works are coming along very well. Next station we have. So here's another view, apologies, of that crossing that we're doing, the signalized intersection. The civil works for this are really nearing completion, and that will be followed by the traffic signals installation. And then we'll be able to get that much anticipated MUP signalized crossing into service. Next slide, please. Thank you. For Dow's Lake Station, here again, works are progressing very well. Some of the recent activities are the rehabilitation of the stairs, which we can see in this photo. Next slide. Carleton Station, here again, lots of good progress. We see a train here at the station in this photo. One point to mention is the locomotion artwork has been reinstated on the left-hand side of the track in this photo. Next station, moving south. So we have the Rideau River pedestrian bridge, just again to celebrate the opening in mid-June. And I know this bridge is very used and enjoyed by the public. And so again, we want to just highlight the good work to get that bridge put into service. So now for Mooney's Bay Station, here the major activity that's left is completing the access ramp, which will be newly accessible as part of our improvements at this location. And then again, just continuing our closeout of deficiencies. Next slide, please. So this is our Elwood Diamond grade separation structure, which gives us that very important separation of our track and the track underneath. And this bridge has been substantially complete for quite some time and looks very good. Walkley Station, the station itself substantially complete. One of the more recent progress activities in this location is the opening of the MUP, which we can see is open in this photo here and allows that connectivity into the station from Walkley Road. Next up, the maintenance storage facility at Albion. So the buildings themselves are, substantially complete, being used. We're holding meetings in the boardrooms regularly these days. And so the MSF itself has progressed very well along with the track works in this area. If we move to the next photo, some of the current activities here are an addition of 2 tracks for additional train storage, which we can see in this photo, are also nearing completion. Next up for Greenboro Station, here as well, works are progressing well. Some of the recent activities are deficiency closeout, including some fixes that were needed of the snow belt, which has been successful. So now the snow melt is working at this location. Moving southwards for South Keys Station, again, the station itself progressing very well along with landscaping. The Sawmill Creek pathway has been opened, so that MUP connectivity is in place now from the pedestrian bridge over the Airport Parkway through to the station. Next slide brings us down to Hunt Club Road. So Hunt Club Road, some of the MUP works are in place, which we can see in this photo, or ongoing rather. What that does mean is that the pathway leading from South Key Station southwards to Hunt Club is currently closed at that location, and there's a detour in place. So these works will be taking place through the fall, and there will be other additional works coming up along Hunt Club Road as well that should be starting in September. We're just waiting to do some traffic signal reconfiguration that is needed to enable the starting of those works. So moving southwards at Leitrim Station, the station itself substantially complete. As you can see here, landscaping is coming along very nicely. The buses have been moved into the permanent bus loop at this location, and that has allowed us to open up that final area of the park and ride to complete, which we call phase 3. And that's really where works are currently focused at this location. Moving south to Bowesville, this is just a nice overview to show the size of the park and ride at this location. It's very, very extensive. If we move to the next photo, we have a closer view of Bowesville Station itself, and you can see how great that looks. It almost looks like a rendering with the landscaping and the trees in place. Now for our southmost station of Limebank, here major activities are civil in nature for some of the works along the bus loop, some of the flat works, and completing the signalized intersections at this location. And now if we move along the airport spur, so for Upland Station, the station itself substantially complete, allows that very proximal access to the EY Center. Activities in this location include reinstating of what was a laydown area on the left-hand side of this photo, and then handing that parcel back to the Airport Authority. And then for our last station, the airport station. So again, substantially complete, coming along very well. This shows the nice view of the elevated guideway at this location. And if we move on to the next photo, we have the close-up inside. And so some of the final activities here include some of the integration with the fire alarm system of the airport. But again, really substantially complete. So a quick overview of the traffic and mobility impacts. So as we mentioned, that pedestrian crossing at Gladstone is nearing completion. We have Hunt Club Road work, so some ongoing at the moment for the MUP construction and more to come as of September as we get into the other crossings and work along Hunt Club Road itself. And then the last bullet we have here are the pedestrian crossings at Leicester, Leitrim, and Earl Armstrong, which are ongoing throughout the fall. And so now I will pass you to my colleague, Eric Dubé, who will give us an overview of the head end. Merci.
Merci, Justin. Okay, good day. Good day, everyone. Today, I'll provide a short overview of the work that the city has done on the Trillium project with respect to the centralized communications hub, also known as the head end. So just easier to say. This will hopefully give everyone a better understanding of the systems that are involved in a railway project, and also the complexity that we have to deal with. So I'll go to the next slide. Yeah, so The head end, is a combination of hardware and software that provides seamless coordination of all the systems for safe and reliable operation of the line. And the head end is really a new functionality compared to the old O-Train line that has been entirely independent to the line one. The city is responsible for this work. What that means that we have developed a deep understanding of these systems and also develop competencies that would benefit the city going forward with the operation of the system, but also the maintenance of the head end. So what is really the head end? Well, it's where the data comes from the various field devices and systems are all collected and processed, integrated and stored, and making it available for the controllers. So as an example, if you think of your car, you've got wheels, you've got an engine, you've got exhaust system, they're all collecting data from different systems, from different sensors that is fed back to a central computer and then processed, analyzed, and that is then displayed to you as a driver. So the head end is really that computer, and that is providing information to the line controllers. Okay, so that's a bit of an example to put it in context. Yeah, next slide. So what are the components of the head end? So there's a number of systems that feed into this centralized computer, if you want. I'm naming a few here. CCTV, you would have seen those at the platforms, the cameras. Intrusion access control, swiping your card. There's a system behind that monitors who's coming in or who shouldn't be coming in. SCADA, which collects a whole bunch of data points. Passenger information system, you would have seen that the PIDs display at the stations. We saw pictures previously. The passenger announcement system, you would have heard those at platforms. Phones, emergency phones at platforms, networking equipment, and the radio system. So those are key systems that all feed into the head end. The data, the information needs to be combined and integrated and then displayed to the operator. So there's about 15 systems that feed into the head end. A couple other systems which are more safety critical system, the TVS and the signaling system. Those are actually TNX scope, but they also come through the head end and are being used by the controllers. So the totality of all those systems make up the head end. And of course, you need the other peripheral devices to be able to display the information to the controllers, workstations, and that's supported by cabling and so on. So that's all the head end. And next slide. Thank you. So just some facts and figure to give you an idea of what we're talking about. So the city is responsible for this. It's a separate system to line one, but there's over 1,400 devices on the network. So, they all have different IP addresses, different configuration, and they all need to work together. There's over 1,300 discrete data points being measured, a temperature here or a on-off signal somewhere else. So they all need to come back to the head end, being processed, analyzed, and displayed to the controller. So, and also to make sure everything works, we have performed, over 525 tests involving the head end and the systems in the field. So that's hopefully that gives you a bit of an impression. So next slide. Yeah, so from a status point of view, the tests are complete. We're in the process of closing out deficiencies and trending well, but still in the process of closing deficiencies. We are actively looking at all what we call the SCADA alarms. What that means is a device in the field might pick up something and that comes into the operator. So we need to rationalize those alarms and make sure they're correct. So there's a piece of work there that's ongoing, but progressing well again. Yeah, but the system is operational today. So we have been using it and, progressing well with closing out the deficiencies. So hopefully give you, I only had a few slides, but hopefully gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. We will move forward on to a discussion now about the status of the trial running. Just before I get into some of the technical details, I just wanted to say a few words about my colleague, Michael Morgan. So I've worked closely with Michael for several years, and I've always admired his calm approach to work. He is very analytical and pragmatic, which is a rare combination. And he has brought a wealth of knowledge and experience from leadership roles, as we've heard, on light rail projects from around the world. Although I have only been acting for a few weeks, it is clear to me that Michael has done an incredible job in building a strong and dedicated team with the rail construction program. I'm impressed by the level of expertise and commitment and professionalism of the team. I have full confidence in our team, and I am excited and honored to work with them as we move forward on the Stage 2 project. In the next few slides, I just want to explain the current status of the trial running and the next steps that are required before we open the system for customers. So next slide, please. So I want to talk about where we are today and to provide an update on the progress we are making towards trial running and ultimately opening the system to customers. So when we were here last, we talked about the key areas we needed to see progress on before we were able to move forward with trial running. Since that time, a lot of work has been completed, and we are much closer to the start of trial running. However, we still need to finish the pre-trial running prerequisites and grow the system reliability. These two work activities are occurring in parallel. As the train and communication systems are finalized, the system reliability is improving. We have already started the daily operating meetings where performance reports are assessed from the previous day of operations. We can see the steady improvement of system performance, but more work is required. Once trial running is underway, we expect a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks to get to substantial completion and to obtain the needed regulatory approvals. Next slide, please. These are the 9 prerequisites that are specified in the project agreement, and these must be completed before we go into trial running. I won't necessarily go through all of them. What I can say is that we meet daily to review the progress. We have 2 that are complete. For the remaining 7, we are almost at 100%. We are doing the final tidy up. We're between 97, 98, and 100% on each of the other 7. So we are close, but there is still more work to be done. On the next slide, please. So what we are learning as we go through the process of growing the system reliability are we have 4 key areas that we need to deal with moving forward. So the first area is finalizing and fine-tuning the schedules that the trains will follow once in service and resolving a number of issues with the signaling and train control system and the automatic train supervision system, the ATS. The second area here in terms of system infrastructure finalization. So this is finishing software, finishing hardware. The second area is related to the SCADA alarms. So the system control and data acquisition system is important for our controllers. Our controllers monitor the performance of the system. And just like the example that Eric gave before, in terms of thinking about a vehicle, just as on a car, an alarm goes off, you have a check engine light, then that's important. You need to pay attention, you need to take action. There are other alarms that go off, such as low washer fluid, that don't necessarily need to be actioned. The full understanding of the SCADA system and the efficient operation of the SCADA system is critical before we go into trial running. And there's a proficiency improvement that is taking place. But the SCADA system is fully operational. So in that first area, the final piece of work is related to finalizing the automatic passenger counting function on 5 of our Stadler flirts. So this system is functioning fully on 2 of the flirts, but we still have 5 where there is some software optimization work that needs to be completed. That still needs to be done. Moving on to the second main area, the maintenance management and performance reporting system functionality. We call this EMPERS. We are working to ensure that it works consistency, and we are working to improve the accuracy of the data reported from the automatic train supervision system, the ATS, to EMPERS. So this system is important for us to understand how the overall rail system is operating and performing. It reports on-time performance, launch and reduction times, and importantly, it reports on the number of kilometers achieved on a daily basis. And as we've discussed previously, we need to get to 98.5% as part of our trial running, and that's what we want to achieve before we're ready to trigger the start of trial running. Third item there related to diesel rail operator proficiency. Their proficiency is growing. They need time on the system, with the system functioning fully as intended, fully as designed, so that they can become efficient and meet the requirement for 90 trips per day. So back to the car analogy, even though you pick up a car and it's brand new and everything is functioning, it will feel a little different to the last car that you drove. And so an operator needs to get familiar with the feel of the brakes, the feel of the acceleration, how the car performs in curves. That's what our diesel operators are currently going through. What's important for them is that the system is fully functional so that they can get efficient and reliable on-the-job training. And that's what's being developed right now. That's what we're gaining right now. In terms of the last item, vehicle reliability, we're seeing good vehicle reliability. And the more that we exercise trains on the line, we do see issues, but they get resolved. A key message here is that we are not seeing a systematic problem across the 2 fleets that we have, but we have bugs that need to be fixed. The more we run them, we continually find bugs. They are less, the reliability is better. We're very close to being at a point of being able to say that the vehicles are complete. I will now hand over to my colleague, Troy, to talk about some of the operational and maintenance issues. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Richard. Merci beaucoup. Yeah, so the first item that I'll be talking about is the status of the operations and maintenance training. There's lots of training going on, more than the 4 that we've listed here. These are the 4 key categories of people, but obviously we've got training for our supervisors, our frontline managers, even some of our customer service personnel. But these are the 4 key ones that we'll highlight. With regards to the diesel rail operators, we previously talked about having a minimum of 54 required. We've trained 56. 56 have successfully completed the training, and we have 7 more in progress that are ongoing right now, as well. Our diesel rail operator instructors, they will be available the bulk of them will be able to return to driving trains when the training is largely completed, and they can support trial running. Of the trained operators, though, it is important to note that some have moved on to other positions, and some are not available currently for active service due to some long-term absences. So, it's our staffing is definitely a work in progress right now, but we've got plans in place in terms of we got the 7 that are in training, and we're planning to recruit. We're in that recruitment phase to bring on more operators, because we know that we need, obviously, once we launch, we need to sustain this for the long term. Richard touched upon it a little bit as well with regards to the diesel rail operators. Obviously it's a little different than line 1. With line 1, it's an automated system, double track the whole way. with our operators on line 2, they're manually driving those trains. You know, they need to follow the signals. There's certain passing sidings. We may need to make sure that the trains are meeting at specific locations. So it does take longer period of time for those operators to become familiar with driving those trains. It's, you know, we use the car analogy, but you know, it is a very, very heavy vehicle. And it takes some time to get the feeling for, you know, the stopping, the acceleration, and making sure those trains meet at the proper location. So we're going through that process right now. And you know, the factor that we're also looking at is you know, we're trying to do things incrementally with the operators as well too, not to overburden them and overtask them, because safety is the you know, the priority in this case. So we want to make sure that they're focused on their tasks and they're not fatigued or anything like that. So there's just some additional complexities to line 2 over line 1. And it's largely as a result is that it is a manually driven system. There is train controls there and there's a lot of safety features, but our operators are manually driving those trains. Moving on to the diesel rail controllers, you know, minimum of 12 are required. 12 have completed their training. We've got an additional one in training, and we're going to recruit some more additional people because we know that in the future there will be some more attrition. So a diesel rail controller it's a long period of time to be certified to be able to work the control desk. So but we've got our 12. We've got an additional one that's in progress right now. We're continuing with our recruitment, but there is some additional top-up training. My colleague Richard, he mentioned the SCADA and the alarm management. So there'll be some as that work gets finalized and gets further refined. There'll be some additional top-up training for our operators, as well as we know for our controllers as well. There will be some additional training with regards to some of the regulatory requirements on fatigue management and those types of things. So, but that's part of our plan, and it's in progress. With regards to the maintenance team, TNX personnel, you know, in addition to all their technical training that they need to have, there's also, you know, specific set of rules that they need to follow when working on a rail line. And they've completed that training. They're in the process of submitting that documentation to our safety team for their final review. But you know, we consider that largely complete, or if not fully complete. And they're fully versed to maintain the vehicles, the track, the signals, and all the related infrastructure. And then lastly, the emergency responders, that training is completed. I'm going to talk in a couple minutes about some of the drills and exercises that we're doing because we continue to work with them. But the emergency responder training is completed and they've had opportunities to get out on the line and familiarize themselves. But you know, we'll be continuing that over the next coming weeks and into the final preparations. So if we can move to the next slide, please. So lorsque la période de rodage sera terminée.
So when the running in program will be finished for 3 weeks, the OC Transpo and TNext maintenance personnel will continue the final preparations and readiness activities for the launch of the system.
So during the 3 weeks post trial running, we'll be conducting a series of exercises as well as just continuing to run the line. These activities will be done in parallel to the substantial completion and regulatory approvals processes. So they'll be done at the same time, so not to expand that time any longer. The goal of this period is to continue to operate the line as if we were in service, continue to develop experience and confidence among the teams. And you know, the term that we like to use, or the term I've been using anyway, is to build that muscle memory on how to respond to the various real life incidents that we'll experience. And overall, once again, to ensure that our staff are comfortable, confident, know our standard operating procedures, know how to respond, and ultimately it's all about supporting the safe and reliable service. During this time, we'll be mimicking service, we'll be conducting daily launches, we'll be exercising our maintainer by ensuring that vehicles are ready for launch each day, verifying that inspections and the maintenance activities that they're required to take will be done in accordance with all the maintenance specifications, and continue to run on a schedule reliably and consistently. Now, with that said, during this period of time, we want to exercise and repeat the common occurrences or the common experiences that staff will need to be able to respond when service starts. While our team has been going over their standard operating procedures and conducting various drills and exercises and scenarios, repetition is key. We want to continue to do these things over and over again. It's a large staff. And we want to make sure that everyone, once again, has got that confidence and know how to respond to those things that will and do occur in public transit. So we will be conducting a series of drills and exercises planned to validate our team's knowledge and again, build that confidence and muscle memory. Some of the drills and exercises that will be included is troubleshooting a drain door, recovery from a short delay, responding to a passenger using the onboard train intercom, medical emergencies, trespassers, all those types of things are drills and exercises that we're planning to incorporate. We're doing some of them now where we can. Focus right now is refining and finalizing the schedule. But where we can, we're doing some of those drills and exercises now. But over that 3-week period, we've got an extensive list of things that we want to accomplish and achieve with all our staff. Next slide, please. You've heard us say it before, and it's something that's near and dear to all our hearts at OC Transpo, is that the safety of our customers is always our #1 priority. And as part of our readiness activities, we have planned for 2 multi-stakeholder drills involving our emergency response partners, including Ottawa Fire, police, paramedics, and even some additional stakeholders like the Airport Authority and Carleton University. These drills are in addition to the tabletop exercises, the standard operating reviews, and the field exercises previously conducted. And you'll recall one of the large scale exercises that were previously conducted was an emergency situation, evacuation of a customers on a train located just outside the airport station on the elevated guideway. So we've been working closely with our emergency response providers, and we'll continue to do that. And we've got 2 additional exercises planned during this time. These opportunities will not only provide an opportunity for us for OC Transpo to continue to validate and practice our emergency response procedures, but also to work collaboratively with our emergency service partners. And they definitely greatly appreciate the additional opportunities to get onto the line and familiarize themselves with the system. Just a little bit on those 2 exercises that we're planning, because I know there's been questions on in the past. The first exercise will be an emergency involving a train human contact situation in the Dow's Lake Tunnel. And the second exercise will simulate a situation where emergency responders will need to be, emergency responders will be responding to an emergency at the Ottawa Airport and will need to access and cross the rail line. So we want to make sure that they can do that safely. There's communication that needs to happen. There's access gates. So there's a whole drill and exercise that's been planned around that as well. As we get closer to the opening of the line, we'll also be conducting a dress rehearsal. This will let us observe the system with a group of staff and volunteers who will be using the system for the first time. This helps us test different scenarios and observe how customers interact and navigate within a new system. So we want to, infuse the rail line with a large hundreds of people, and we want to see how people navigate throughout where, how they're using the fare gates, how they're moving through the station, looking at the signage and making sure that it's in all the appropriate locations to direct people to the right location. So this is going to be our first big opportunity to bring in a group of volunteers to really see the look and feel and how it's going to be used by customers when we open up. Our team will be sending out invitations to City of Ottawa employees seeking their interest. As I said, as we want to have hundreds of participants involved in the exercise. As well, as part of the exercise, there'll be a number of unannounced scenarios that we call injects that will occur to further assess and document our team's responses. And, once again, sort of a slight delay, a medical emergency on a platform, those types of things. So we're not announcing those things to our staff. Staff know that we'll be doing drills, but they won't know which ones we're going to be doing. And, that's our opportunity to, once again, just build that confidence, review our SOPs, and make sure that everything's going accordingly. Lastly, as part of this 3-week period, our station familiarization tools will be conducted. Station familiarization tours will be conducted for our frontline staff to provide them with an opportunity to get to know the system. With new stations and expanded rail service, we know that it'll take some time for some customers to become familiar with lines 2 and line 4, the airport spur. So we want to make sure that all our staff have had access to access the stations, access the system, to get a real feel so that when those questions and comments come in, that they have the confidence to be able to answer the questions quickly and obviously accurately. So a lot of activities going on through that 3-week period. We're going to make good use of it. I hope I've highlighted the amount of work and effort that's gone into making sure that we're ready once trial running is complete. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Emmanuel Amelkar for some final words.
Merci beaucoup, Troy. J'aimerais ça pouvoir donner une
Well,
date
I'd like to be able to give you a date for the opening of the system. I know that's what you want, but unfortunately we can't do that now You've seen that the system is very, very complex. The good news, however, is that for the time being, we're seeing that the more we actually run the system, the more we identify bugs and the more we're able to resolve those. That's good news for me. I spent half a day myself with the people on the network, and I saw some great things which really encouraged me. But it's important also for us to be ready to launch the system properly.
So I know that you are looking for a date from us today for sure. I won't be able, unfortunately, to provide that because we're not ready to do so. The good thing is I was in the network myself and I saw very, very, very good things. I was very grateful to see that. However, we continue to identify some gaps, some issues, and we have to work on them. So when we will be ready for hopefully forever. So with that, I will go over to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Merci René. Merci à l'équipe pour la
Thank you
présentation.
to you, René, and to the team for the presentation.
I think they're in the room here, so maybe I'll just get folks to clear the table and ask the delegations to come forward. Maybe the clerk's office can assist with that, please. Just let you get settled in there. You're Archer?
Yes.
From Carleton University Students Association. So welcome to the LRT subcommittee. I suspect, I know why you're here. I know why you're interested, and I appreciate your time today. So I'll turn it to you. You have 5 minutes to share your comments. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, counselors, staffers, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Artur Estrada Silva. I am the Vice President of Student Issues at the Carleton University Students Association. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you on the updates regarding Phase 2 of the Trillium Line construction and to share a bit of the student experience at Carleton University. So CUSA represents over 25,000 undergraduate students at Carleton University, and in our community, we are service providers, a small business owner, and an advocate for the issues that matter the most to our students. One of the most critical issues for our association is the subject of safe, affordable, and reliable transit across Ottawa. And with that insight, CUSA is extremely appreciative of this new LRT extension and the countless opportunities it creates for our student body. And we have no doubt that a project as such will increase student accessibility and make getting to and from campus easier than ever before. However, given the immense stake our student body has in the opening of Trillium Line and the new Carleton Station, we can't help but feel that students on campus aren't properly informed about the timelines regarding the project. That's part of the reason why we're here today. We've seen the Trillium Line project face numerous delays, setbacks, and challenges over the course of its construction. As you're aware, the line was originally designated to open in August of 2022, and as most students that once expected to use Trillium Line are now entering their final years of university, frustration with these delays has exponentially increased. We are very aware that such large capital projects rarely come both on time and on budget, but we face the reality that many students have spent the vast majority of their higher education without direct access to LRT services. The news from our local city councilor, Sean Menard, reflected in the report today that testing and commissioning is well underway, is welcome to many students who are hopeful for eventually using the service sometime in the next academic year. Nonetheless, today we have a few questions we were hoping to pose. Firstly, are there any channels of direct communication through transit services, the subcommittee, or other methods that our association can continually and regularly be informed of testing updates, the likes of which that we can pass off to students that oftentimes inquire us? Secondly, can transit services commit to a concrete opening date granted if testing and commissioning proceeds as smoothly as possible? And lastly, are there any outstanding inspections or civil works to be completed at Carlton Station that were maybe not indicated in the report? And once again, we thank very much the opportunity to be here, and thank you very much for your time.
That was great. Well done. Thank you very much. With that, I'll turn to the committee, see if they have any questions for the delegation. Yeah, please, Vice Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming to talk to us today. I guess I was just talking to Councillor Kavanaugh here and asking, there are various social media tools. And I'm just wondering if there's any comment you had that one of them may not be as effective. I mean, we're thinking about ways you can get updates that Carleton students could get individual updates and ROC Transpo website, automatic messages sent. Is there anything that's not working specifically that you think we could take some feedback on?
That's an excellent question. I think personally, social media is always a great way to get information across. I think Instagram, from my personal experience, is maybe one of the most effective ways to get information across to students. I can also share on a personal note that if we do receive reports on how Trillium Line is going and on updates that might be interesting to students, our association would be glad to post them along in all of our social media platforms, our website and everything, because students often reach out to us individually to ask questions, and we're happy to provide them with some answers. But if we can post it along in some channels of communication that are more effective through our association, we'd be glad to do so.
Okay, great. Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. Councillor Lowe.
Thanks, Chair. My question is sort of beyond that, right? If the information either the city or we divulge, how far or how easily do you have access to the as many students as possible? Like I'm not doubting your abilities or anything. It's just maybe it was different back then, but when I was at Carleton, the only time we heard from CUSA was during elections, and so a lot of important information doesn't really get communicated. And granted, there was no major capital project happening back in the late 2000s, but how does that communication work then from CUSA to the student body?
Thank you so much for your question, Councillor Lowe. I'd be glad to say that from my personal experience, I think we have gone a long way in regards to that. In terms of how information gets across, as I mentioned, I think social media is a very effective channel of communication, and something that we started doing this year at least is short advocacy update posts on our Instagram. So if you go through our feed, you're able to see a few updates. We're going to post one actually tomorrow also on another subject, but we try to make information as readily available for students. So I think social media is an effective way. We have now advocacy update posts, and these update posts are also reflected on our website for all students that want to check that over there. We have been trying to improve our channels of communication through digital ad boards at the university, and also an opportunity hub in our website where we share opportunities with students. So these kinds of things are things that are constantly on our mind and that we're always trying to improve.
Okay, thank you very much. It's too bad it's not opening in, it's too bad it's not opening now, because with all the U passes being converted, this would have been a perfect opportunity, but oh well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanaugh.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was just talking to our communication expert here, Amanda, and she's taking notes. So I don't know if she has any comments that she wants to add about communicating.
Not right now. Thank you. Just questions for the delegations. Thanks.
Okay.
We'll ask.
Okay, well, we'll ask her after. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just trying to keep it to our rules here. Any other questions for the delegation? Thank you. Any other questions from members? Thanks very much. I guess my questions to you are, you heard the presentation today, a lot of moving parts, complex projects. You will sense, I'm sure, from every member of council that we want this project to be launched as quickly as possible, and we want it to succeed in day one. And we learned from the first experience of the LRT, and if you talk to your predecessors at Ottawa U, it was not a good experience. And would you agree that we should get as much, that the team needs to have as much confidence as possible when they give us a date because of what happened previously, that they give us a date, they're not confident, or there's a 50% chance it doesn't happen. And there is considerable letdown and disappointment in the community. So do you agree with the approach that we should do our best to have as close to 100% confidence that they're ready to go so that we avoid the situation that Ottawa you went through in year one of the LRT?
Absolutely. I think on a personal note, I think it all comes down to transparency. If you know, it's a matter of confidence, and it's also a matter of transparency. The more transparent the update that we receive is, you know, I think that's the best for students, because I can say from my personal experience as a student, I'd rather just deal with a reality that is unfortunate rather than being updated information that we, you know, is subject to significant change, you know, in future timelines. I do agree that confidence is key, and part of having a confident project, I'd say, is, you know, having also a direct and transparent line of communication.
Yeah, thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. And thank you for your, you know, you presented very well today. The students have a good leader in you, I think, to come here and dialogue with us in the way you did today. There's no question, I think, that Carleton University is the epicenter for the impacts of the delays of this project. You've been waiting since 2006 to have a reliable LRT system, and we're on the verge of doing that. Carleton University was key to convincing us to go to rail, because it was so successful, that O-Train pilot, and students at Carleton would you know, travel from all parts to connect with the campus. They would go shopping at South Keys, Greenboro, and there's probably, I would argue, you're one of the top 5 destinations that are critical and that will really benefit from rail. And I know you've been hit hard, both the students and staff. So we really appreciate your patience. We want to succeed from day one. And as you saw from the presentation today, they're working, I think, as hard as they can to bring us to that point. So thank you very much again. We'll now go to questions to staff, and we'll start with Councillor Tierney. And then, of course, Councillor Kavanagh, I know you have questions for staff, which we'll get to. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chair. And I echo your points. A great presentation from our Carleton representative today. A couple of quick things. Now, I'm just going to get right to it, being cognizant of everyone's time. I don't need long answers. We just went through 87 slides. No, 89 slides. So I think there was enough content there. Thank you for the presentation. So when it comes to construction, I just want to say the good things first. So it's like a sandwich, and then there's a little meat in the middle. So first of all, the East End councillors have been touring the stations. They're looking terrific. I want to say kudos on the safety aspect of things. I learned a lot about even the detection systems and helmets that will stop machinery, preventing accidents. So safety is paramount on those sites. I witnessed it firsthand. It's terrific. A lot of the features that are built in for emergency situations and the call boxes, I think as councillors, we all want to echo and make sure we have a good communications front, whether it's the defibrillators that are at some stations, which ones have bathrooms, the heated platforms. There's just so much. I don't want to chew up time. That's something we can do. When it comes to the challenges in the East End, there's two. The first one has been obviously related to the Montreal Road underpass construction efforts, where they close 2 lanes each way. We've been working very closely with staff. It's created a lot of frustration. We've had to put signs, don't block the box, don't block the intersection. Had police out on occasion attempting to keep traffic flowing, but we've been doing this for months, and I know we're getting very near the end where we'll see that 2-way direction of traffic again. And I think the frustration from constituents is when they don't see any work taking place. They're like, why is that lane closed? So we're near the end. So I just want to hear, and you know, I've been working very closely with Michael at the city. Terrific job. We are near the finish line with the work at Montreal Road Station, and it will just be sporadic small things in the future. And thank the constituents for all their patience over this time. Is that a fair statement? Is that correct?
Hi, Counselor. Thank you for the question. Do you mind repeating just your last line? I want to make sure I captured it correctly.
Yes, absolutely. So we've been working under the idea that all this work was happening concurrently. We were getting everything done, especially before the public school board returns very soon, which sees the greatest growth of traffic. It's been lane restrictions under the Montreal Road Bridge where that station is, to 1 lanes on each side. We've been given and told it would be September when we return to 2 lanes both sides to make sure the traffic to Blackburn to Beacon Hill to the east end, that would be open again. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is. And as you know, we've been working together closely on, communication of the closures of that location and sort of the rationale as to why they're needed. We are still on track to, in September, looking to reinstate to 2 lanes each direction. As we know the specific date, we'll be sure to communicate that with you. Just for clarity, beyond September, there will be more works. And so in general, we plan on being done at that location by the end of the year, but we are looking to reinstate those much anticipated lanes in September.
Excellent. And it looks like we're moving and progressing very well. So, I thank for the patience of my residents. Secondly, when it comes to last time I was here, I believe I asked Madame Amilcar, and it was a bit of a surprise at the time when I asked, we're already about a year behind on this line. And I asked, is this going to be ready for FCM where we see 3,000 people come to the city? The answer was no. Then I asked about Blues Fest, and the answer again was probably no. What is the current status? And I'm not looking to advance anything if we don't want to launch anything that's not safe. Dog sitting, by the way. Has that changed? Would we be informed early enough if that's going to go backwards or forwards in time about the completion of Stage 2 East End? Because we see the trains running now. People are getting very excited.
Thank you for the question, Chair. My answer will be similar as last time because we have conducted now a lot of key tests. And I think probably at the next subcommittee LRT at the end of this year, we will be in a better shape to start to put a month. But I will be cautious again because, I have experience with the Trillium line. So I know when we will start the survey, when we will start to run a lot of trains, we will find things to improve, to correct, which is the right thing. So I don't want to set any expectations, so you will not be frustrated. But we will provide you a date as soon as possible for sure.
Oh, fair enough. Absolutely. And it's just more about not even just myself planning for my residents. It's about these large festivals like Blues Fest that really could benefit. I heard nothing but great things about the train during Blues Fest this year. It's able to move those massive volumes. And if we see that opportunity for them to plan to use that train system, it's still quite a while away. And if we have that opportunity, I think that'd be good to do. Last question, Mr. Chair. A lot of the new route signs are going up in the community right now. It's creating a lot of confusion because it's just a garbage bag over the signs. And I understand what we're trying to do. They're beautiful. They look great. But people don't understand with good reason because we haven't really communicated heavily about what those new routes are. And so where people see a route like 24 in my area, that's a single route, one direction, don't understand when Stage 2 launches, even though it's going to be dramatically longer, and it's a great website, but not a lot of people are on there. It actually talks about the route in more detail, 15-minute guarantee times. It's a longer route, so you can't really cancel parts of it, and it's going to be two-way. So it's actually going to be a much better service, and I just want to ensure that we're going to start getting in front of this sooner than later. I have a big Christmas holiday event in November. Have hundreds, maybe thousands of people go through there, and to be able to start promoting some of those new localized routes in the area with big boards, big, physical boards, and to be able to tell people the benefits of what these new routes are going to look like and how it is going to be, in my mind, the game changer for our service. Is that something that staff are looking at now? Is new November too? I don't think it's too early. I think the fact the signs are up with the bags on them now is leading to far more questions and complaints on Facebook without knowing the full totality of these new routes.
Thank you for the question. I'd like to ask Pat or maybe Pat, do you want to bring forward a response on the communications piece?
I can speak to that, Councillor. Chair, through you to the Councillor, certainly we're looking at ways to effectively promote the changes that are coming through New Ways to Bus. We have a number of tools on our website. I take your point that where there are opportunities to bring information directly to affected communities, we should be exploring that. So I don't know. I'd like to look at it a little bit closer before I commit to anything, but certainly we do have a robust communications plan set up to promote New Ways to Bus and all the changes that are coming. I think everyone has seen around the city. I've certainly seen it in my own neighborhood, the signs that are up and bagged and ready for that change when it's time to do so. So we're making our preparations so that we can roll that out smoothly and make sure that everybody has plenty of notice to adjust to their new routes at a time that makes sense. So we'll as soon as we have solid dates that we're able to share, of course, we'll share those first with this committee and with council and then with the public in as timely a fashion as we possibly can. So, the idea of signboards is an interesting one. We'll have to take that away and see whether we have the resources. Of course, if we're doing something for one section of the city, in fairness, we have to do it for all of the sections of the city, so that we'll have to see whether that's feasible as a whole of city approach.
Okay, maybe through you, Mr. Chair, we can get staff to, how long will it take for you to generate a response on that? Because I'm planning my festivals and events and different community engagements. And November's right around the corner. Snow is going to start flying soon. I hate to say it, everybody. I want to be able to build into a lot of my outreach the ability to be able to speak to the people about the new routes that are anticipated. And, I don't want to wait till December and say, well, we don't have enough resources. I think there's certain resources we need to have, and educating people about routes is probably one of those key pieces to how we want to make this successful, is to explain it to people. Would it not?
Chair, if I may, for the New Ways to Bus, I have said here many times that to be able to put it in place, we need to launch lines 2 and 4. So this is the first step. But as my colleague Bart just said, we are ready to communicate, and we have a thorough plan that we will definitely share with you very soon. We have already shared a lot of those documents, but we will come back again when we will be close. But I would say maybe we can take it offline if we can send you some more info, but definitely we'll come back either here or the Transit Commission to present the way that what we're going to communicate to our customers and when, and we'll give plenty of time to customers to get settled and to get ready to use the new system with the New Ways to Bus.
Great. I'll turn the floor over to my colleagues. I'm assuming you'll probably have very similar questions or concerns, but thank you for your time today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. I agree with you that, we need more information in terms of the rollout of that plan. And part of that is emphasizing reliability of the new system. So I know there's some changes coming about where the traditional road network buses are being eliminated. We're moving more people to the rail system, which will be reliable. And we have to think long-term. Albion, Bank Street, Airport Parkway, not getting upgraded for a very long time. The buses are getting caught in congestion there. We get reports on reliability. I think it's like 36% are related to just congestion in the road network. So your bus may be quicker now, but over time, it's likely not going to be as quick as the rapid transit system that we're going to be implementing. So I really hope we'll be focusing on reliability. We're going to continue with members with Councillor Leeper, then Councillor Kavanagh, and then Councillor Brockington and Lowe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Just a few questions I think arising from the presentation. Excuse me. So I guess one of the first things that struck me was the reconfiguration of the bus loop at Tunney's Pasture. Can I get a little bit more detail about that? That's for when stage 2 goes into service. Are we going to maintain the lands that we're currently using from the feds, or is there a negotiation and further discussion about that? Because I thought we were giving a whack of that back.
Thank you for the question. I'm just going to call my colleague down, Michael, who will be able to talk to the details about the land issue.
Great. Thank you, Chair, for the question. Currently, we're working on a design plan with PSPC on this. So the lands, as you see, currently are going to change slightly. So we're currently working through the preliminary design process as part of this in consultation with them. Hopefully that answers your question, or if it does not, please continue to elaborate.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because my understanding was that you know, we're in control of a fair chunk of federal land in order to accomplish the big bus loop that's necessary, because currently it's the terminus for the service. Obviously, it is not ideal having people walk pretty far distances. I was looking forward to contracting the station design a bit once it's no longer serving as a terminus. And I think what I'm hearing today is that that plan may be changing.
Thank you for the question. So at this time, the plan is not changing as part of that. You know, we're trying to deliver service as close as possible to the LRT station as we move forward. So once we get to a point where I think the plans are kind of solidified a little bit more, I think we'd be happy to share them with you for your review.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very interested in that, because that's something I'm very much looking forward to, is the contraction of the station into a smaller geography, just to make it easier for the people who are trying to catch their buses. Can I get, if you have some further timelines on the signalization at Corso Italia station, at that new crossing?
Thank you for the question, Chair. So in general, works are going very well. The civil portion is almost complete. And then the final aspect of the work is to bring in the traffic signals group. And so we're sort of at that coordination step. So once we get the traffic signals, the city traffic signals team in, they can do their work. And then the final step is activation. So unfortunately, I don't have a specific date at this time, but I can say that we're nearing the finish line.
Is it a matter of a couple of weeks or days or a month?
I would say this fall for sure. Again, I just don't want to commit to timelines without bookings with our city traffic signals group.
Okay, I'm concerned about that because if I understood from the large briefing we had, I can't remember when, in June or thereabouts, the completion of that pedestrian crossing and implementation of it was part of the requirements in order to put the train into service. And I'm just looking, there's no signal heads up, and I know that's that work can take a while to do.
Agreed. That is still the plan. That hasn't changed. So can I commit to giving you a date within the next 2 weeks?
Okay. Yes, please. Because I'm concerned about that as a holdup to getting the train into RSA.
Understood.
Okay. The SCADA alarms sound a little bit vexing and persistent. Can I get an idea of how problematic those are from a launch perspective? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Just to give a sense of the type of alarms that are coming through right now, for instance, we can have a door that maybe has been left open that will continually alarm and contribute to hundreds of alarms that are being received at the Transit Operations Center on a daily basis. And so, you know, many of the devices that are tracking the security of the system, the CCTV cameras, the access control readers, basically all the systems go back through the SCADA to the TOCC. Simple things like a door being left open can generate a lot of alarms, and that can be overwhelming for our controllers. The situation that we're in right now is, we're in flux. So we're moving away from the civil work, we're completing the system work. The number of contractors that are within our stations and our communications rooms and our electrical rooms on a daily basis is reducing dramatically. So, week by week by week, we see those alarms coming down as the maintenance organization within TNext takes more control as if we're moving into operations. So we're in that position where we're kind of moving out of construction, testing and commissioning, system integration, and we're moving into more regular pre-trial running. So we do expect those alarms to drop because of that kind of evolving situation. But we are also focused on just overall alarm management. So we have an alarm management plan. The controllers are trained to understand the various levels of alarms that come through at the TOCC. We are looking at optimizing that system. So if there are particular alarms that are coming in to the TOCC that are, for instance, related to the train wash building at the MSF, we may take the position that, well, we'll just shelve those alarms, because from a controller perspective, that's not impacting operations. That's a maintenance issue. So there is work underway right now to optimize that system. So I hope that gives a bit of a flavor of the issue. It's not something we're concerned about. It's not an error. It's not a mistake. It's not necessarily a deficiency, but we just need to work through to optimize that system.
If I may, it sounds like if TNext had a greater complement of people, or a full complement of people, you'd be able to verify that these alarms are issues or not, or fix those more quickly.
Thank you for the question. I wouldn't characterize the issue as a lack of resources from TNext. It's a natural situation that we find ourselves in now as we transition from the completion of the civil work, the system integration work, completion of the testing, commissioning, the reduction of the numbers of workers that are actually on site, and moving into kind of regular maintenance and operation activities.
Okay.
Chair, if I may, on doit comprendre aussi que
you must understand also that it is normal for now that we hear so many alarms for different reasons, but I want to ensure you today that everything that has to do with the ventilation of the tunnel, everything related to the system as such, everything that's under the responsibility of the TNext, everything is under control, and that's what we want, absolutely. For the rest, of course, there is a reason for these alarms. We can't control everything, but this is not necessarily a big issue for now. We just want to have the right access cards to the right people. So we'll have to do a reset on that. The workers have keys today, but tomorrow we don't want them to have keys, because we'll be transferring from the construction to the operation. So that's a lot of cleanup to do. We have a groups that was set up this week so that they would proceed one by one through the system. But so when we change something, that will be, okay, this one has been changed. We shouldn't have any more of those false alarms. Next time there is an alarm, it will be a real one. But everything that has to do with the ventilation of the system and the system as such, it's all under control. Thank you. That's useful.
One last question, which is with respect to the number of DROs available. There are 56 who are trained. There are 7 who are in training, and 9 trainers who can be put into service. But an unspecified number have taken other positions. How many DROs do we have available today? You need 50, sorry, I can't remember the exact number, but it was like 56 or something.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Right now, we have available active DROs, excluding the instructors that can come back, is the number is 48.
And how many are required? Sorry, I forgot the number from the slide.
Well, at this time, we're still doing our final tweaks to the schedules and those plans and getting operator crewing. So, we're anticipating some efficiencies there when we get, sorry, we use the term crewing when we, you take the service schedule that our customers see and then you assign operators to that schedule. We do anticipate seeing some efficiencies in there, but, we anticipate that the number is around that 54, 58 number of DROs that would be required. So we're in that realm. But we're going through those final tweaks on the schedule, doing that final prep work. So some challenges right now, but I think we're well in hand with the resources that we have. And as I said, we're continuing to recruit and we'll continue to augment.
Okay, so barring further moves by existing DROs into other positions, the 7 who are currently in training would fulfill the need that we have. What is the schedule for their graduation?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll have to take that back, but I believe it's sometime in October. But I can follow back up with you on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Chair. Those are my questions for the time being. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Lieber. Councillor Kavanagh, thank you. I think you wanted to bring up some questions that are always from the delegation, among others, I'm sure. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And it's related to communications, as we heard from the delegation. That was concerned about getting information to Carleton students who are chomping at the bit, obviously. And is it possible to do a direct communications with CUSA or to students directly?
Thank you for the question, Chair. So we do certainly publicize information and updates on all of the Stage 2 projects, including the South, the East, and the West on OC Transpo's social media accounts. So we're on X and Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We also have OC Transpo's website where we publish updates about the projects, including on our blog, which exists on our website. It's so there's certainly a number of electronic resources available to students, but we do work directly with Carleton University and share information with the university itself. And we will certainly be following up with them to see if there are some ways that we can communicate directly with the students' associations in the future, particularly on some of the major milestones that are approaching with trial running and the opening of the system later this year.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you. I have a couple of other things I wanted to ask about. For openings, we had ambassadors for Stage 1. Are we going to do ambassadors for Stage 2, particularly Trillium?
Yeah, as part of our launch activities, we will have ambassadors out there to support customers, likely not at the same levels we did for Line 1, but it is part of our customer outreach plan.
Great. I think that'll be very helpful. Appreciate it. Moody Station, that was intriguing to find out that trains are going to start there for testing. Is that what I got?
Thank you for the question. Trains will actually be starting in the LMSF itself. So we're going to be dropping that off next week. And in turn, we're slowly going to progress through the LMSF station itself and then push our way into Moody Station, into Bayshore, into Pinecrest, et cetera, as the track and the OCS becomes available to do so.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. I look forward to seeing that. Thank you. Obviously, everyone's impatient about when things are going to start, but I appreciate the updates and I appreciate that you're being cautious about dates. Personally, and I've been, getting it all the time, when are we there yet? But I think it's better to have all the ducks in line, all the safety done, everything. So I appreciate it. So it's hard to say that because I certainly get it from my residents that they want it to be over, but because they're the most impacted in the city, particularly with Stage 2. But my understanding is that many of the delays that have led us to being delayed substantially are pretty much done, and that as of now, going forward, things are moving along quite well. That's the updates I'm getting from my reps for Stage 2. Is that correct?
Chair, the answer is yes. And so if I'm talking about the Trillium line, are you talking about the west side or? in general?
I guess I'm talking about everything, but stage 2 is west is, in terms of further delays, the delays have happened, and now things are marching on much better. That's my understanding.
Yeah, or Justin, yeah, please.
Thank you for the question. In particular, in the west, the critical path of the project is the tunnel. And so I think a very important milestone that we've touched on in the past, but that's absolutely worth repeating, is that the structure of the tunnel is complete. And so what that allows is that we can get the track installed, and with the track installed, we can install all of the systems that follow. And so with that structure in place, we now have sort of an open area ready to receive track. And so that's a very important milestone to touch on. And then again, with this train move that we're doing at the LMSF starting next week, for perfect clarity, this is being moved in on a truck, right? Because we don't have the track connectivity in place. So we are trucking over an LRV from the stage 1 and reassembling it at the LMSF. And there will be 2 more that will follow later this year. And so what this does for schedule is it helps de-risk that we don't need to wait until we have the track complete, as my colleague described, from Tunney's westward to get a train out to the LMSF, for example, and do that train testing. So the train testing itself is a very large scope of work. This is allowing us to have that happen in parallel while the infrastructure is being laid. So just to your question on sort of schedule delays and risks, that absolutely helps de-risk the schedule by having that activity take place concurrently to infrastructure build out.
Okay, thank you. I just want to finish off my my time with thank yous. I want to say thank you for moving up the Richmond Road Complete Street project. It's crazy right now with all the detours. Took a while for people to get used to, but I think that's going to be really helpful because it'll be completed before the train line opens, and I think that's a real positive. So I want to thank you for that, and also for the bridge over the Rideau River. That was great to have it open earlier. I think it really helps motivate people that things are moving along. So those are my 2 thank yous. And my final thank you is to Michael Morgan. It's been a pleasure to work with him. It's been the most complicated section is the stage 2 west, of which Bay Ward is the biggest part of it. And it's been very hard on residents since it's right in their backyards, literally. So I appreciated getting assigned a couple of people from stage 2 to work with us, with my office, and they've been great. They get back to us. It's like having an extended office because a good chunk of our inquiries are related to stage 2. So I want to say thank you, Michael. Appreciate the work that you've done. It's been a very intense period. Starting, I remember during the pandemic and you were sitting there with your daughter and beside you, and when we were all just starting at home, and still keeping us up to date on all the things that are going on. So thank you very much for all your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Brockington.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to you. And yes, my initial comments are to echo what Michael's colleagues started off the meeting with and what others have said. He is everything that everyone has said. And he has been an asset to our city and this project. And Michael, my sincere best wishes to you on the next project. So I can say the same about the whole bench there. I have the same feelings, people who are dedicated and loyal and passionate about public transit and these projects. But Michael, since you're leaving, we're focusing on you and really my best wishes. I have 2 questions about issues I've seen in the slides that are outside of River Ward, and I'm just going to ask them, and to save time, if staff could follow up with a memo, that would be great. The first question is, why is a second bridge being built at Place d'Orleans, slide 8? We already have a bridge, and I see them in parallel. We've got connecting. The LRT bridge is already connecting to the original bus bridge, so I'd like to know why a second bridge is necessary. And my other question is about the warrants for the pedestrian crossing on Gladstone. If staff did a warrant test for that, I want to see that again. I don't want to take time from the meeting today, but if staff could follow up, that would be great. Madame Amicale is always shy to talk about date, and a little hesitant, but according to my calculations, we have about 2 or 3 weeks left of pre-trial prerequisite testing. Mr. Holder talked about 2 of the 9 tasks are done, 7 of the 9 are outstanding. So let's just say 2 to 3 weeks. And then you add, if everything goes well, 4 to 6 weeks for the actual trial run. And then you add another 3 weeks that Mr. Charter talked about for post-trial run. That brings us into December. You add up all those weeks, we're now into December at the earliest before we open. So Madame Emika, will you confirm that we are not opening the line until at least December of 2024?
Chair, we have shared with this forum last time that we need a minimum of 8 to 10 weeks to run the system to make sure that we capture everything. After 5 weeks only, we have captured a lot of things. We are more than happy because we wanted to capture them before we go on a revenue service. We need to continue to run the system to make sure that we will continue, one, to address the issues that we know now, and maybe finding others. Then we will be able to send a memo to say that we are going to the trial running. After the trial running, you get it. There is a few weeks that we will need it, etc. But for now, it's very, very difficult for me to commit on the date because those preliminary stage are so important. I don't want to get stressed because we want to succeed. We don't want to fail. Fail is not an option for us.
I appreciate that. I was just seeking clarification of those 3 major periods. We are successful and we're able to graduate from one stage to the next. My calculations bring us into December, which is a date that hasn't been discussed yet. We were looking at October, and every time we have a meeting here, that date keeps getting pushed or moved. Back to River Ward, there's a list of issues that I raise continuously that I'm not getting updates on from the team. And I'd like to know, like, can someone from the LR2 team be assigned to provide me with details about some of those River Ward specific issues along the LRT line that are not, in the grand scheme of things, the major critical issues. These are what I call secondary issues, but are very important to people who live in the LRT corridor in River Ward. The Brookfield MUP that still needs to be fully repaired. Today, for the first time, I'm learning the Walkley MUP has reopened. That's great, but my office was not informed that the Walkley MUP reopened. As staff know full well, we have issues with the Trillium line arrival and departure bell signal, which is causing concerns for people at Walkley Station. We don't ring the bells on Confed line. People would like to know timelines to address this. This is not directly LRT, but the Hunt Club Road repaving between the LRT and East Bank, literally for years, keeps getting postponed. We're just looking for timelines. If the remaining road work that you referenced in your presentation is going to bleed out until the end of this year and push the repaving to 2025, we just need some certainty, again, with timelines when that work is going to be done. I've had a question and I can't remember. Will bus route 97 cease when the Trillium line opens, or are we still going to have a bus that serves the airport and the local community that ends at South Keys and or Greenboro? That's a question I'm asking today.
Mr. Chair, I can answer that question. The The service that's now labeled as Route 97 will not carry that number anymore with the new Ways to Bus route network. The service along the Transitway will be provided primarily by Route 98, which then continues east to into the Greenboro area. Overnight, when O Train Line 4 is not running, Route 98 will go to the airport. We have other changes to the local route that now serves the Uplands area to serve some of the commercial warehousing employment areas on the airport lands. And Councillor, if you've got more questions, I'm happy to talk to you more later.
Thank you, Mr. Scrimger. And just my final question is about raising public awareness about the opening of the Trillium line. I acknowledge there's stuff online, but again, proactive outreach to make people aware of the line's opening, to get them to use it, whether the first weekend it will be free. We want people to come to their local station, get on the line. Tours of stations, are the local councillors going to get tours of stations? You've taken the mayor and the chair out, Chair Gower. Councillor Tierney's mentioned tours of East End. I've not toured the southern stations. I think this would be a great opportunity. But again, I plant that seed with staff and would appreciate hearing more details as we get closer about what's the plan to. This should be a celebration. This is very good news, very good transit for our city once it opens, and I think it needs the fanfare that it deserves. So I'd like to have more detail about what the plans are as this date approaches. So, Chair, those are my questions for today. I thought the presentation was thorough, but there are those what I call the secondary issues in my ward in particular that of course aren't top priority for this project, but are important to many people in my ward that I'm looking for updates on. So thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, maybe I can give a very quick answer to Councillor Brockington. So for your first question, Councillor, we'll let you know who you can work with for the river roads, etc. And the last one, for sure, we'll come back, as I said on my speaking note, with a thorough plan, and you will be involved for sure as a councillor and your colleagues as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lowe is next.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. It's always nice to know some progress is happening. My questions are a little bit all over the place, but they'll follow how the presentation was delivered. So, starting with the new vehicles for the east-west line, the new Citadis vehicles, are the timelines? Are they being delivered as we're expecting them, at a rate that we're expecting them? Like, does it look like we'll receive all the trains by the time, all the trains we need for the east, at least by the time that extension looks like it might open? And I know that they're being manufactured in, I think, Brampton and being delivered here, as with the MSF construction for the Huron Ontario line. Does that have an impact at all?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. Being specific about whether the trains are late in arriving, then we would say that yes, they are. Overall, they're not, the vehicle supplier is not meeting the requirements in terms of the delivery of the vehicles. But moving on to the impact that has on operations, and starting with the east, at the east end, we receive requests from the constructor, KEV, EWC, out in the east end for vehicles to that they need for their Hitachi CBTC testing and other testing. And to date, we've been able to provide enough vehicles so that they can work through that testing. That is beginning to ramp up. So the number of vehicles that people will see in the East End will increase. And we are expecting to meet that schedule. So there is a ramp up in the vehicle use for the East, which is on top of maintaining the 13 vehicles that we require for peak service on the current line 1. In terms of, are we ready for the East End opening that will occur in 2025? Then the expectation is that we will be ready.
Okay, good to know. So that was it for line one. I'm going to move off onto the Trillium line now. I do understand the hesitancy and the reluctance to sort of commit to a date and apply, you know, that pressure that led to so many of the problems for line one. But there's sort of that line between understanding and sort of just it becoming really, really far off, and you know, almost to a point of I want to use a nicer word, but I think ridiculousness might be that's what's on my mind right now. But you know, given that we have some of these timelines in the presentation from today, I think residents might even appreciate at least like saying, hey, this is our ideal timeline. Like if everything goes 100%, this pre-trial, then trial running, then whatever happens, trial running. If this can all go 100%, we look like it looks like we can open in X month, you know, of whatever year. So is that something that that you can provide? Like if everything goes 100%, like what is the earliest possible frame within which we can open line 2, or at least get it to a stage where it can be like a week or two before opening? If I hope that makes sense.
Chair, with respect, I prefer to be ridiculous today instead of giving something that you would like to hear. We are not ready to do so because it's too important. You need to go to the field to see and to feel why it's important. I think with the lessons learned, we have to hear, we have to be patient. We want to be clear we are ready. When I get my license, I was very, very, very young. I'm another car driver today. We need that. The system is getting better and better, and you cannot imagine how happy I was last Friday when I was on site. I see things now that I want to see now. I don't want to see them in 3 months. So that's for this reason, I would like to ask you to be patient with us. We will be, as usual, fully transparent, but I will not commit to any day today to make sure that we capture everything.
Okay, understood. So continuing on line 2 then, the CUSA the presentation by the student union actually brought back some memories about that little portal at Greenboro Station, between the bus rapid transit and the bridge over into the rail station. I do recall that little opening in the concrete was, this is a very specific question, but I do remember that little opening in the concrete becomes a little choke point, becomes a little bottleneck for the flow of people, because the bridge is wider than the opening and the station itself is wider than the opening. It's actually about the width of a very wide doorway. So has anything changed about that, or is that you know, has that structure itself where the little opening is, has that not changed at all? Has it changed at all, I guess is the question.
Thank you for the question, Chair. I don't have the specific details. I guess more of a visual person to kind of get an understanding of that. We're happy to obviously take that away and come back with an answer for you on that if there's been any changes as part of the program and the updated stage 2.
Okay, thank you. With regards to the head end of line 2, you know, there's nothing, sometimes there's nothing less efficient than having to train somebody in 2 separate systems. I know that it is independent of line 1, and I understand why, because it is a very different system, line 2 versus line 1, sorry, Trillium versus Confederation line. But is there enough compatibility that, you know, somebody who's familiar with the head end for line 2 can sort of move over to Confed as required, so that, you know, there's not a you know, the siloing doesn't become
Thank you for the question, Chair. One of the main system is the SCADA system. It's produced for line 2 for Trillium by the same company, Willow Glen. The GUI interface, obviously there's different number of stations and so on, but the GUI interface is, identical, same colors, same sort of structure. The alarms coming in following the same structure. The CCTV system, same CCTV system, maybe a more recent version. IAC intrusion access system, same system. So from an operational point of view, and that's on Troy's side, but there are a lot of similarities from a controller point of view. Obviously, different system, different subsystems maybe, working slightly differently, but there's a lot of commonality there.
Okay, no, that's good.
If I could just.
Oh, is there more? Okay.
Complement the response as well, just in terms of the advantage of having a second head end that is solely for the purpose of managing the systems on Trillium. We have the advantage that we've gone through this whole period of testing and commissioning and system integration without any impact on stage 1. So I hear your questioning of having two systems, and maybe one system is better, but we have certainly seen the advantage already of moving towards having a separate head end for stage 2, for stage 2 lines 2 and 4.
No, I understand. I'm not trying to claim that having one consolidated system is better. I mean, like if it's at least the interface is similar so that people can sort of cross between the two in case you lose somebody due to illness or something. So that's good to know. The last little bit of questions is what are some of the examples of ongoing vehicle reliability issues? And same, I guess, on the same vein, operator proficiency gaps. Like, is it because that little bit of overhung club was the last little bit of track to be completed, or are there little specifics that weren't possible before that are now possible, and they're just sort of trying to fill those gaps?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So maybe an example of that, where we have, the interface between the diesel rail operators and the actual system. It's related to emergency brakes. So the operator is following a target speed and has to follow that target speed very accurately. If they go over that target speed by a couple of kilometers, then the system intervenes and initiates an emergency brake. So there's not necessarily a deficiency with the vehicle, but it's an example of the integration and the operability of the system. What's important, as we talked about earlier on, is the proficiency of the operators. The more that they get experienced, the less that we're seeing these examples of emergency brakes occurring.
Chair, maybe to complete, we know that as well, we have some sensors errors that require that the technician come and investigate, and some display errors that we see as well. So we are working on those. We can have that one or twice per day. Those are slight things, but we need to resolve them.
Okay, no, I believe, Richard, you said that there's nothing systematic. So that is very encouraging to hear. And, it's good. I am happy to know that there are a lot of drills. Repetition is a good thing, because I think the Trillium line is going to be really sensitive because of all the single tracking sections, especially in the main section of the Trillium line. I guess the whole thing is the main section anyway. But no, that is good to know. Last little thought, and I think I'll leave this more of a transportation staff rather than transit, is just Earl Armstrong, no shoulders, not lit, near Bowesville Station, with that additional traffic, the may pose issues in the winter, but that I'm happy to take offline with it should be transportation staff. So thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any more questions from members or from councillors? I don't see any. Just a couple questions and comments. Thank you for the presentation again. Obviously focused on the Trillium line. I've been waiting a long time, and constituents regularly ask me in terms of how we're doing. I think we've been successful in showing to residents and the public the complexity of it and the pieces that are coming together. Your slide, Mr. Holder, where you said 2 out of 9, I think 2 are at 100% and 9 of your checklist are at 80 or 90%. So that is moving in the right direction. There's some things that are in-house that we have to work on, and Mr. Charter went through all those. But I'll say for me, and I think for several people, we're patient, but our patience is not unconditional. The condition is that there's urgency, that the contractor, we're satisfied with the contractor, that they're timely in fixing things and getting things done. So as an example, if we need a part or we need something, they're doing everything they can to get it here as quickly as possible, so that that we're pulling it all together and it's being done in a timely fashion. So would you say, I asked the team, are you satisfied that the contractor is all hands on deck, that they are working hard, night and day essentially, and doing everything they can to resolve things as quickly as possible? Again, we're going to be patient, but it's conditional. I think that we hear that everything is being done to do it as quickly as possible so that we can reduce the timelines that we're talking about.
Chair, I can say yes, we are working together and the sense of emergency is there. But time, it's our best tool to make sure that we can capture those issues, we can correct them, and then launch the service. But yes, we are working together.
Is there anything you need from council for the internal stuff in terms of moving things and getting things done from the in-house? Is there anything you need that you don't have presently so that you can be mission accomplished, as he said?
Thank you, Chair. Your support is good.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from staff? I don't think there's any other questions. So again, I thank you to staff for the presentation today. And the report recommendation is that the Light Rail Subcommittee receive this report for information. So received. Thank you. Item 5, in-camera items. There are none. Item 6, notice of motions. There are none. Inquiries. There are none. Other business, there are none, and adjournment is, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is likely in November of 2024. Right now we have November 29, 2024, but with this file, we'll see if that, if something else needs to happen in interim as this project progresses. So with that, we adjourn. Moved for adjournment. Thank you very much. Merci encore une fois à tout le monde.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you.